just because you put a roof over something doesn't mean that it's protected. You have infrastructure to support that building, and all of that equipment, all of those things have to be looked at to make sure that they're not going to be impacted by, for example, hail. A couple of weeks ago, we did a live on solar panels. People who are investing in solar panels, which are excellent to get you off the grid, to provide renewable energy, and solar panels installed on a roof or even in a parking lot can be impacted by hail. And during our live a couple of weeks ago, we explained to people that if you made an investment in solar panels and you're in a hail impacted region, which is the majority of the United States, this is Minnesota. The majority of the United States is exposed to hail. The majority of the United States and a big part of the farming community is also exposed to hailstones that are very big. Most solar panels that are tested for hail are not tested for hailstones that are that big. If you'd like to learn more about it, we can drop a little link in the recording, because we'll have this recorded. So anybody who missed it, you can come back. But we'll also drop a link in the recording so that you can see that old live talking about how hail can impact your solar panel investment. So just because things are indoors does not mean that you don't have to worry about the impact of natural disasters. This is just one example for hail, and then we'll move on to the next one. This is an article that we found from MJ Biz Daily, talking specifically to cannabis growers, but this information can be applied to all different types of farmers. It's not just about cannabis. And this talks about wildfire. We've got a lot of wildfires happening out in the West. Lack of rain, things are getting dry. Any small ignition source will spark a fire that will grow out of control. So there are things that you can do to prevent these things from happening. I think some people think Mother Nature, natural disasters, I can't do anything about it. I just have to kind of weather the storm and get myself back up and running as soon as possible. And that's definitely not the case. There are things that you can do. And this article does a pretty good job at giving some examples of what you can do if you are exposed to wildfire. First, you have to know, are you exposed? And if you don't, reach out to us. We can definitely help you with that. But when you are exposed, there are things you can do, such as putting sprinklers outside, having backup water, backup generators, backup power. All these things are great. But I wanted to point out just a couple of things in this article. Cannabis growers specifically don't have access to the same types of insurance providers that other commercial industrial farmers might have access to.
I didn't know that.
Because they don't want to, it's the federal, once things become federally legal, cannabis cultivators will be able to go out to these larger insurance carriers. I used to work for the larger insurance carriers, larger property insurance carriers. These are the people that can underwrite things that are, in the billions, $4 billion or more. Most cannabis growers probably are trying to find insurance from multiple carriers because the carriers that are so big aren't willing to take them. So they got to get a little bit of insurance from here, a little bit of insurance from there, and in some cases, not at all, and just have to kind of take that risk and suck it up. Whether or not you have insurance doesn't matter. You still need to be doing things to protect yourself, because insurance will, yes, replace your damages, but one of the things that people don't understand when it comes to disasters and insurance, they'll pay to get you back up and running, but meanwhile your customers have moved on somewhere else. You've had a significant reduction in your market share, and you're now struggling to get your customers to come back to you, among other things that you're struggling with. So insurance doesn't cover the fact that your market has gone off, your customers have gone off to someone else. They don't pay for that. And in some cases, most companies are out of business even after they recover 2 and 3 years later, because they're struggling to get their customer base. So whether or not you have insurance isn't really the thing. You still need to be doing things like this to just try to avoid the complications and mitigate these things as much as you possibly can. There are things that you can do. And this article gives some really great examples. Cutting a fire line. So that basically means removing vegetation and removing things that will allow the fire to get closer to your building. This can be difficult to do, especially if the person next to you on another property is not responsible and isn't doing the same thing. You can't go over there and just cut their vegetation. So there are other things that you can do. You could put sprinklers outdoors. You can be mindful about the type of building materials that you use, the type of roof materials that you use. There's different materials out there that are actually better for external fires. So if embers and burning things in the sky start floating and they get pushed in the wind and they land on your roof, there are certain types of materials that won't allow for ignition versus others. So that's good information to know. You can train this one says train your staff to fight fires. I have a hard time. With this one. You're asking a lot of your employees to actually, be there fighting a wildfire, think about this. Natural disasters are large geographical disasters. They're not just happening to your building, they're probably also happening to your employees and their houses and their families. So to ask your employees to, leave their home to fight your fire, some of them may do it. But to expect it and to request it, in my opinion, is a bit bold. It's a bit bold. So I don't know that I support this one. Backup power is also really great. Having a backup power system that will run things while you're not there, because you will not be able to get to the location. This is an example with wildfire, but if it's a flood or a hurricane, same thing. You're not going to be able to be at the location. It's not safe. In some places, they force evacuation. They do emergency evacuation. So you're not going to be able to be there to maintain the farm, maintain cultivation, maintain your HVAC. It's great to be able to have all of these things automated. The one thing that people forget when it comes to this is, yes, you've got your lights automated, you've got your HVAC, your watering systems are still providing everything that they need to your plants, but your people will not be able to be there and or can't be there. So when the plants are growing, and this could be for a long time. This could be for 2 weeks at a time, a month, a couple of months, several months. It depends on the catastrophe. For example, right now in Kentucky, we talked about this last week. I think we're on like week 3 now of hearing news about things still going on in Kentucky. So it'll be weeks before you're able to get back into that building. And meanwhile, yes, your plants are being, lit. They've got lighting, they've got nutrients, but they're growing and they're getting bigger and they're probably getting out of control. This is one of the issues that I dealt with while I was traveling a lot and growing indoors. My plants would get out of control. So we came up with Trello Grow LST, which is an automated way to control your plant height and to maintain an even canopy. So if I'm not able to be there every other day or every day, I've got something that's automatically there controlling my plants for me, not just the lights and the HVAC, but I've also got something controlling the canopy size and the height of it. If you hook that into your backup power supply, you've also got that issue under control as well. But here is kind of a quote from this, generators with an automated system. Owners can run operation from an iPad or computer, fill up the reservoirs. That way plants can at least be watered. But it's not just about the watering. There are several other things that need to be automated and connected to your backup power supply as well. So please consider that. And then making sure that firefighters have access to the building so that they can try to wet the outside and get around and do what it is that they need to do to try to save your building. But remember, they're trying to save lots of other buildings as well. So their capacity, they might be maxed out. Relying on the fire department or your employees to fight the fire is really like the last resort. You really want to have other things in place, physical protection systems, they're called, that will do the protection for you so that you don't have to put yourselves or somebody else's life in danger to do it.